settings in StreamYard when you go live.
Oh, yeah, the stream is live.
Yeah, so I'll just share my screen now, and
yeah,
we can dive into it. I don't know how long you want to go either. It's Friday afternoon.
I got
so.
no. We can go however late. I was thinking, hour or so. I mean, my wife's out at her appointments now, and so we're there's not a rush. I'm done with work for the day. So
okay. Start this again and zoom in a bit. This is literally the most complex thing I've ever built, I think.
Right, which is encouraging.
Yeah, no, it's
oddly encouraging because I'm like, as I started to dive into it, I bet you I ran into some of the similar issues of like, wait a minute, how do I persist this across steps? Okay, it's not persisting.
So I have a bunch of those things working, and there's some things in here that there's some complications I don't think you'll see in deals for devs. Which is the repeatable fields. So let's say March. This is just text, but I can enter my house.
Right.
Fun event. So continue is going to take me to step 2. I think there's actually something. This is not right. I need to fix that.
Yeah, I see it. Mm-hmm.
And so the repeatable field is tough because you're having to potentially create like infinite of these. So like as I do casserole, then I can add an item.
Oh,
that's another one.
Is that adding it to an array?
So yeah, an array of items. Mm-hmm. And then we could say bread 1 and continue. And then this one is interesting because there's also a lot of logic that went into this, where in this one I am searching my database for usernames. So I have to like populate this.
I remember that's where you left off last time because you got to populate the list.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's a whole nother query.
Yeah, that's its own, because I went and did a lot of things where I have up and down arrow working on this. Then I have enter working on that, but enter doesn't submit the form. And then what's interesting is I also had to, like, if you notice, if I search for James, this James doesn't show up in the search results because I filtered out since it's one I've already selected.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Okay.
So the big thing though right now though is if I refresh on this page, it should. I actually don't know why that didn't work. Well, that sucks.
Oh,
interesting.
Yeah,
I may have
it all refreshed.
Yeah. So if I refresh this page, so that worked. Something about I was just working on the local storage part. So what this does,
yeah, I get it.
It writes to local storage on fairly often, and I don't know what the best way to do this is, but it just stores event data, and it's just
it's an object. Okay.
JSON object. And so what I do in the context, which is where I am, is on the very first load of this context. So in the empty array, I call read from local storage.
Smart. If there's data, then
yeah. So I have a set of default data. I get the item from local storage. If there is no local storage, I just set the event data to the default data. Mm-hmm. I then have a parse because I need to make sure it's not only valid JSON, but also matches the format that I'm looking for. So I do a Zod parse. If that throws an error, then it just sets it to the event data. Or default data. So you could see if I come in and just mess this string up, for example, so this is invalid JSON and I press enter, what's going to happen is it's going to just reset it
to the default. That's smart. Yep.
And then if I had this, so if it was valid JSON, but this name was namesies, this should also reset it because it didn't have the name property. So Zod, so using JSON parse and then Zod to see that I get valid JSON, and then also make sure that I actually get the type of object that I'm looking for.
Yep.
And that worked. Like again, here, my cool event, March 11th. If I refresh, and you can kind of see that updating if you watch as I'm typing, like my cool event is awesome. You can see it writing in local storage. So as I refresh, this will load that again. I think it will load items, if I refresh, that one doesn't look like it's working. So the next 2 pages don't look like they're working with the local storage. So something in there is off that I need to check.
Let's check it.
Well, we can. I feel like I have so many files. So let's actually do a quick breakdown.
Breakdown, top down,
of this. So under the new event route, I have not that one. I have a layout. The layout is wrapped. By the way, Cosme, we just kind of dived in. Cosme, what's going on? Brian, what's going on? Lacoste, what's going on Twitch? So this is not the most entertaining probably of streams. This is more of a productive one, hopefully. This is Chris Nowicki, Chris Wicks on Twitter, who's working on the Deals for Devs project. Brian is also working on it, who's on YouTube. And we're kind of talking through the multi-step form for that. Okay, so I have a query client provider. Now this is a client provider from a query client from Tanstack Query. And this just enables us to do caching on HTTP requests. So it's specifically for that last form step where I'm doing
You're combining it all together.
Well, it's where I'm querying the backend to get the users by their username. So we have that search input, and instead of if basically it's going to cache the query. So if we do the same query, it's going to have the same
names. So that way it's not fetching all the names again and then going back into it. Random, and this might be a really stupid question. Next.js has built-in caching. So what's the difference between the cache that Next.js provides and does this allow you just how you access the data? I don't know why my head's up here and I'm doing this, but
yeah. I haven't done anything with Next.js caching. Caching means a million different things in a million different places. And I don't know what specifically Next.js caching means. I don't know what API caching means. The difference, I think, is this will cache, and I actually don't know this for sure. This is my guess. I need to talk to somebody that knows more about this. My guess is this caches for the given session until you refresh the page. Because what you don't want to have your API request cache everything, because what happens if we add a new user behind the scenes and then you query user
and that user isn't available now because you have to revalidate the cache. Okay, that makes sense. And you're right.
Which actually maybe there's enough control to say query this API route until I add something, then revalidate. I don't know.
You can revalidate if there's a way to track if the state changes, then revalidate it or something. Maybe like in a
they have the revalidate function. I don't know if that's only for pages or if it's for API routes too. I don't know if it applies in the same way. It may. I just don't know.
They have a revalidate path, and I think they have a revalidate. Let me look into it real quick. But yeah, I know they have one for revalidate a path, and then they have a revalidate cache as well.
Okay. Yeah, there may be things there that I've never used that could be super useful.
Okay, cool. So you got that for the user portion.
Yep. And then I have the event form context provider. So basically all the data for the multi-step form is stored in memory in the context provider as we go through the different steps.
All right.
And so there's actually a decent amount of stuff in here. It creates, I think I don't need to replicate this default data, but it has several different properties. The event data, it has a flag for whether or not we've actually loaded the data. So loading from local storage to start. Or if local storage either doesn't exist or is invalid, then loading from the default one. We then, if we have any change to the event data property, if the event data changes in some way, we then say that's local storage. So this just takes that object, stringifies it, writes it to local storage. Then we've got a few functions that are used inside of those other steps. So one's to add an attendee, to remove an attendee. We don't need to track any changes to attendees after that, because you can't like if I add an attendee, that adds a record for the attendee ID, name, and username. What but you can't change that. You can remove an attendee, but you can't like change the name because that's just something that's coming from the database. It's not something the user writing this controls, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. Yep.
So we just have add and remove. I think one of the things I'm missing for items is I have an update items function, but I think I'm only calling that right now if I like add an item. I'm not necessarily, I don't know if it's tracking when we actually change the item value that's inside of the input, for example.
That makes sense because I didn't see that as a dependency on. I see what you're saying. Yep.
Yeah. So that's one of the things I have to track. There's the save to local storage. There's the read from local storage, does the parsing, say, or like handles the errors, etc. And so we create that provider, and then we pass in the value that these are the things that I want to be accessible to the different components. I want event data. I want a function to be able to update all the event details, and then I want functions for add and remove item or attendees, and then a couple, all these things, whatever. Derber says, I know you from some YouTube videos, great content. Thank you. I appreciate that on Twitch. Igo Daro, my first time attending your live video. That's awesome. Welcome. For people that are new, 3 things I love to know about people. What's your favorite tech stack? How long have you been doing it, writing code? And what's a fun fact about yourself? So if you feel like sharing any of those details, feel free. Gerber asks if there's a reasonable implementation for use Signal in React Next.js. I've never used it, so I can't answer that.
Same here.
Signals. What's the framework that really made Signals popular? One of the newer ones that like made Signals a thing, and now I think Svelte 5 uses Signal. Solid, Ricardo. Thank you.
Yeah, solid.
Yeah, I may also not be speaking correctly about Svelte 5. Svelte 5 does something different. Angular also implemented. Okay, cool. So short answer is I don't know anything about Signals, to be honest. So I don't know the answer to your question, unfortunately.
Here's what AI says about it. Signals provide a reactive subscription-based way of managing state that can lead to less boilerplate code and a more enjoyable coding experience.
Nice. And I know Angular has had reactive variables, for example, since like V2, I think. I don't know if that's the same as Signals, but similar idea of being able to register basically for changes on a piece of data. So then I have 3 different pages. They basically are just an empty page component with the actual form inside of it. So I have the event details form, and it has those different properties that we talked about. On change, I call the update event details. So that's how it's checking. That's how it's updating the main core piece of state continually. So anytime the values change, it just calls that, and it passes in the name. It says this is the property that we're updating. One of the things that someone helped me out with that I found was cool, I'd never done before, but made a lot of sense, is you could pass in. So since I wanted to update the event, I wanted to call event details. I didn't want to create a function for update event name and update event description.
Right.
So you can say that the properties that come in here are going to be a partial of event details.
So that way TypeScript.
So you can have either name or description. You can have name and description, but you may not have all the properties of event details. So this does ensure, though, that the thing I pass does at least have a property of event details.
So you can't pass on something that doesn't already exist on that property as long as the key value pair matches what you already have.
Yeah. So if I said names, this should throw an error and say that's not a valid property. Yeah.
That's awesome. Wow. That's really, I never even knew that was possible.
I didn't either.
To do a partial. Wow.
I was literally, I was like, I need to do this where I just want to pass one of these properties. And they were like, partial. I was like, thanks.
you got to love chat, man. Chat comes through so many times on a clutch basis. That's cool.
Ricardo, RxJS. So Angular had like built-in observables, I think. In addition to RxJS that you could also do for that. Yeah, fun tech words to say.
Observable. And I love this approach too. This is something I started doing a long time ago, where instead of creating state for each form, value for each input, just create an object of the data and just update the key and the value of that object. And it makes it a little bit easier.
I'd have to think through for me if that would have been better. I don't know. Maybe.
Aren't you doing that, or am I completely wrong?
Yeah, that's what I'm doing. I just don't know if I would have been better off having individual inputs or pieces of state. It would be a lot more use state that I would have to define.
That's what I'm thinking. I
Yeah.
think it's not. I don't think it's better or worse. It's just a lot more
Yep.
state. It just makes the code more bloated. I don't know.
Yep. Okay. So one important thing to know in here is these buttons inside of these forms are all marked as. Oh, actually, wait. This is marked as submit. Where's my form handle? Okay, but I have a custom on submit handler. So inside of here, I prevent default. I actually call. I think this is completely unnecessary. Where I call update
because it's already happened.
Because I think it's already been happening.
Right.
And then we just push the router to step 2.
Now, let me ask you this: at what point does it? So, are you validating at each step, or is that just naturally happening from these Zod schema?
So it's not using Zod at all. What it's using is just built-in HTML validation.
Oh,
so if I try to submit this form,
it's not going to happen.
And I don't have like really complex rules, so this is good enough.
Yeah.
For now.
That's great. Okay. That makes sense.
Derber's asking, do we use Prisma as RM? So in this project, no. I'm just using the Xata TypeScript SDK. And the Deals for Devs project, we've since migrated to using Prisma as an ORM instead of the TypeScript SDK. So in this project, no Prisma, and the Deals for Devs one that Chris will show is Prisma.
Yeah.
Chris on YouTube, have a quick question. What's the best route for a search bar for a travel agency? I assume by route you don't mean like actual like API route. You mean like best solution. Best is all relative. The way I have my last section on here set up for search is as they type, I get a debounced value out of that, which means I'm not doing a query every time the thing changes, but after like 200 milliseconds of something changes. So while they're typing, it won't search. And then it makes a request to backend API endpoint and then shows the results. So that's what I'm doing there. Let's go to this one. So this is where Corbin came on. Were you there when he came on? And
yeah, that dude is so smart.
Yeah, he is. So we ended up using the React Query form, and I was actually going to use React Query form on the third part, and I found it challenging to implement. And just a lot of this comes with like syntax that I just don't know. Like this still just seems, I mean, I can do it. This still just seems weird. So it's not something I like innately fully understand.
Right.
And that's worth like noting, I think. But anyway, with this form, you can define default values. And so in theory, this should pull from the event data, its items. And actually, I know why this gets reset. I think I'll come back to that in a second. Or it creates a default one. And really, this should just come from event.items. It shouldn't be creating that, although it may give me an issue. Okay, I'll have to come back to that. And then it has an on submit. So basically, if it triggers this on submit, it's already done the validation on the data.
Smart. Yep.
Prevent
default, prevent propagation.
Yeah, I can't remember. I may not need.
Is this the final step?
This is the second one. So I actually don't know. Yeah, because then we push to step 3.
There you go. Okay.
I'm actually unsure why we have both of these now that I think about it. This may be.
I
think that might be old.
That looks like it's old because it looks like it's calling the one above. That may not even be called anymore.
Yeah. Brian's asking if I'm facing the same problem. I try to tackle on a few live streams. I wouldn't say I'm facing the same problem. I'm just still working on the same thing, which is very complicated. And I'm still kind of feeling my way around of what I think is the best way to do it.
Yeah.
So this has, now that I think about this more, I almost feel like I might rip this out
Oh, really?
I'm really, because the third step became a lot easier when I wasn't using, and this is not saying that Tanstack or React form, Tanstack form, whatever it is, React form from
Yeah, it's
Tanstack.
basically React
I'm
form.
not saying that's not useful. I think it's just a tool that I haven't used a lot. So like when I get down to the syntax, like none of this is stuff I'd be able to write from scratch. And the only way for me to actually really tell is to take it out again and try to do it again. I don't know.
What was the goal? Remind me again, what was the goal for adding this in? Like what was this fixing?
Well, I don't have a great answer to that. I think it's part of why I'm questioning it now. I definitely did at the time, and it was something to do with displaying and tracking the multiple, add as many of these things as you want. But I'm actually not, when I go back to that, I'm not actually sure why. Brian said, sorry if that sounded rude. You didn't sound rude at all.
Oh, no. Yeah, not at all. No.
Yeah, not at all. That never even crossed my mind.
What's up, Nate?
Nate, what's going on, man?
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. Nate, did you stream today or this week? What have you been working on?
He's been a little silent this week.
Really?
Nate has had some interviews, hasn't he?
Oh, really?
Jason.
What's up,
Mr. Jason Torres?
Derber, and someone else commented about these as well. He's always sick. Form. So I'm using React form, but I still am kind of questioning whether I need that right now. And this syntax is just weird inside of my form.
Do you have that committed yet, or could you like copy?
I don't. Yeah,
copy it so you don't lose it, just in case.
And
then rip it out. That's what I would do.
Yeah, I very well might. One of the interesting things that he mentioned was they were working on something with Tanstack form that would save to local storage. And they also had something in there for multi-step forms. So it may end up being that a lot of the code that I wrote in my context, they would take care of for me to do a combination of those to store a high level state and then to do local storage stuff. Derber is saying usually Tanstack stuff is pretty dope. I don't disagree with you at all. It's just one of the things I haven't used very much. And now I'm going back to like, I can't remember exactly what the pain point was of why, and he was very helpful and I'm very appreciative of that to come on and do this with me, but I can't remember what exactly that pain point was. And I kind of doubt it was something I couldn't handle, but I don't know. Because inside of on change, I could just call that root context to update that thing again. So I'm not sure. Because I don't know.
I'm just reading through there. I'm just trying to see if they have like built-in state management.
So I'll have to test it out and come back. I feel uncomfortable. This is me and my lack of experience with React form, Tanstack React form is like just that syntax and those components or things. They're just not ones that I use enough to really feel confident in it. And so on the third part, which is the attendee, event attendee form, I found myself like really struggling. I've got some stuff to update here. Really struggling to implement Tanstack form, React form. I don't know what the appropriate name is. And I very quickly ripped that out and just did it myself. And it was, for whatever reason, so much easier at that point than whatever problem I was having in the previous steps. I don't know.
Well, I think that's something valid though, even for those like, out here who are learning how to code and everything. It really comes down to what are you most comfortable maintaining right now? And if you can't maintain it, if you're looking at that code going, I don't know if what is breaking my code is in this or in something else, then go back to what you know, do a little bit more research into this till you get familiar with understanding the syntax and you can understand what it is that you're putting in. It's okay. Doesn't mean Tanstack is bad. It's probably great. I mean, when he was going through it the other day, it was super valuable.
Whatever that specific problem was at the time, after we got some of their boilerplate code set up, then it was like, oh, this did some things for me. I think I probably just didn't have a clear enough understanding of what I was trying to do at the time. That might have been it, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, why don't you just
yeah, I'll give it a shot without it. Everybody's saying forms are the worst. Forms suck, like always. There's always a million more things that you have to do with forms than you think.
Add multiple worst. It's like multiple worst forms in one.
Yep. I've got a TypeScript error in here because I changed one of the types, so I'll come back and fix that. But I have inside of this one, I am referencing event data, and then I use that to map through the attendees that are on the root map data. Then I display the attendee. I also have in here, if you pass a remove attendee function, callback function, it then displays the trash button.
There you go.
So I can use this in multiple places.
That's great.
It wasn't right. What just happened there? Oh, something else broke. Jeez Louise. That actually submitted. Okay, I got to come back to that. Oh, it's because I just changed something. So I can use these in multiple places. So if you look at this populated thing, this component that displays this, this is actually the same component as what's here.
Yeah, that makes sense.
This one just has a delete and doesn't have a hover.
Yep.
So I get to reuse that. And then the big thing inside of here is the autocomplete attendee. And there's a lot of stuff in here.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you get to bounce. That makes sense. Data, is it loading while it's loading? And that's where you're using the
this is Tanstack query.
Yeah.
And so this has the query key. So this is a search plus the debounced value. So this is like not taking every single change to the value, but only if it's changed after 200 milliseconds. Then it would query or trigger the query and make the query to the back end and then do that stuff.
That's brilliant.
Let's see, and then I also have to check for the stuff that comes back from the API that I can't display all of those results because that might include stuff that's already been selected. So I have the filtered results, which is like after I do the query, I get back the data.
Oh my gosh.
Then
it's a crazy loop, man. Like you got to get the data, then you got to check if the data already exists in the data that you have. So you're comparing arrays and arrays.
Yep. So I get when the data changes, if I don't have anything in it, then I just return an empty array for filtered attendees. And then I grab the filtered ones combined with the ones that are already attached to that are already been selected. And then set those. Someone said, why not use React hook form? Felt so much easier. I have to go through and look at some of these form libraries. Typically, the answer is like, yes, it does a lot for you. Specifically with trying to do Tanstack React form here, it was easier for me to do it myself. I think I'm not doing as much specific like error handling. I think that's one thing that is really like if you're trying to set a property for an error message for every single input and do validation on every single input and stuff, I think some of those libraries can help you. In this case, since I'm not doing like error messages and I'm just using built-in validation in HTML and it's very simple, I've been okay so far with what I've got. So we'll see. JB, what's going on? Clay on Twitch, what's going on? I then handle up and down arrow. This was another thing from a user experience that I wanted. Like as I'm in here, I can press up and down to toggle through these. So I have a selected one, and then enter on this will actually select that one and actually apply it.
That is cool. I like that a lot.
And this is just basic value and on change. And then I display results from the search by mapping over the filtered attendees, and I can use that same attendee item.
That record is one heck of a component, man. Yeah. Wow, that's impressive.
That part was a lot.
Yeah. Well, it's complicated, but I mean, it's pretty cool. You can reuse that now across anything else that needs something that type of checking and comparing against results and what's already in an existing results list. That's cool.
The thing I don't have yet here is inside. Well, maybe I do, or have something stubbed out. No, not that one. An attendee form. Don't have an actual click handler for this yet.
Got it.
Or form submit. So at the form submit handler, grab all, or actually,
yeah,
probably event,
just the full event data, right?
Call server action.
Yeah,
with event data.
Is this step 3?
This is the final.
Yeah, this is where you call the server action to then load up into the database to create everything.
Yep. So all of these step 1, step 2, step 3 routes are under the /new event route, which means I have the layout, which has its own context inside of it. And that means that it can share the data between them in memory. And then that data is also replicated to local storage. And after it's submitted, local storage should be wiped out.
Now, here's my question. Did you wrap and this is what I was getting ready to change in deals for devs. I just didn't get to it yet, but I was going to wrap the context around a specific layout for that form only rather than around the whole application. Or did you put it in the root layout?
No, it's just in the layout for that specific route or that specific sub route. So this layout is under /dashboard/new event.
Perfect.
And then
can you go down to that layout real quick? I just want to.
This one here. So this is where we wrap the event form context provider.
Create event layout. Got it. Okay. And then you're creating the form progress. Oh, that's cool. I like how you're doing that down there with the create event form progress. What step? Current step.
And that this is just hard coded right now. So the one thing I don't have, I probably actually should pull a piece of state inside of here.
I created just
state for current.
I called it step, current step. That's what I called mine. And that's what I'm tracking.
That's what I did. Well, like if you look inside of the progress thing, I do have the current step. I just need to pass it in from somewhere higher level.
Yeah, that's smart. Query. Okay, so you got that in there. You create your own event relative, and then from here, the pages are loaded in the children. Where's the children?
So the children are those nested routes. So step 1 page.
Oh, that's step 2 page,
etc. And
so you don't have to necessarily. Oh, they're right there. Sorry, I was looking on the screen there. It's hidden in green. It matches your div color. Got it.
Which one? Oh, the actual children itself.
Yeah.
And then on the if somebody navigates to just /create event, I just redirect them to step 1 because the layout is with new event, but the actual form is /step 1. Sony, what's going on Twitch? Oh yeah, I did. They finally responded back to me and got me hooked up with a Twitch affiliate again.
So nice. Wait, you're affiliate again.
I am now a Twitch affiliate. Everyone, feel free to give me all of your money. That's how that works.
I love it.
Yeah.
How funny would it be if I went on my separate browser and subscribed to you while I was on the stream? That'd be great.
That's fine with me. You do what you want. I won't stop you.
I know.
No, Stony, what? Stony just gives it a bunch. Thank you, Stony.
Stony.
I was kidding, but I will certainly take it. I appreciate that. Stony, your support has been very encouraging. When I was doing just a couple of streams, Stony was giving me feedback and advice and stuff and asking me to do more. And anyway, it's been a ton of fun. Nate is asking, why did I lose my affiliate? So I actually gave it up intentionally because at the time, I wanted to stream to YouTube and Twitch. And at the time, technically you weren't supposed to, even though no one really cared. So just to be safe, I forwent my affiliate status.
Forgoed.
So that forgoed. So that I could stream without any worry again, even though everybody else really didn't seem to care. And then now that's changed and they don't care anymore. And so then I wanted my affiliate status back, but I don't think Twitch had in place a way to automatically reach out to you again if you gave it up and then re-met the
qualifications for the basics
later on. So I had to go through support, and they finally got back to me. So you better set the leaderboard to not reset every week. Stoney, tell me where is that setting?
Yes.
Is that a leaderboard from just like points from being in chat and watching streams? Is there a default for that I have to go in and change? One sec, you'll find it and let me know.
Yeah, so you're just protecting the routes here. If they go to the page directly, it's not going to work.
There's another question. Actually, so what doesn't work is if they try to go to just /new event, that redirects them to step 1. What does still work, and it needs a check, is they can go directly to step 2. In step 2, though, step 2, I check for valid step 1 data. If not valid, redirect
to step 1.
Step 1.
There you go.
So that way, I want to make sure by the time they get to step 3, step 1 and 2 are finished, and I don't have to worry about anything else.
Yep.
So this would be here, and this would be in step 3.
And also, I think you need to add in a since you're not tracking the step data technically in state yet, like at what step they're at, probably add that to local storage so that they refresh their browser. We are not talking well today, James. But when they refresh their browser, it knows what step they're at, and it'll pull them directly to that as well.
Oh, that's a good point.
Otherwise, it's going to pull up
back to.
Yep.
Well, that still is reasonable, but if they're on step 2 and they refresh their page, it will allow them to go to step 2 because that data will be if the data from step 1 is valid, which it should be if they're already on step 2.
Step 2 anyway. Yeah, that makes sense.
So that should be fine. And then if they're gone for a long time and then all of a sudden go to like click the create event button to get back to creating an event, it's probably safe for them to just go back to step 1. So that's probably okay, but it could be, yeah.
Maybe if they go to create an event, it checks local storage. If there's stuff in local storage, it routes them to whatever step they were at in local storage.
Based on that data.
Maybe that's the use case for that. And then at the very end, after it submits, upon a successful submit, it deletes local storage.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely got to do that piece. Monetization. Oh, dang.
Talking through this is helping me out as well, since I'm developing a same multi-step form. So it's helping me to keep these in mind for myself, Yep. This is great.
Speaking of which, do you want to share yours now?
Sure. Let me get it pulled up. Hold on.
Also, Stoney, so the settings for leaderboards is daily, weekly, monthly, all time. Are you saying that should stay? What do you think? Monthly or all time? I feel like monthly is probably, because I could see a use case for like at least monthly. Yeah, I could see a use case of just having a little bit of recency bias. Yeah, I'll do monthly then.
I gotta switch screens out.
Also, Chris, you probably didn't hear this, and y'all won't know this. Before we actually went live, my video wasn't working, and I was like walking around. It's kind of funny. My camera is mounted, so I can never like. The only indicator of if it's on is if the lens hole is open, and so I often have a hard time knowing if the camera is on or not. And instead of this is tiny, but instead of reaching up to hit the on-off switch, which always inevitably like moves my camera slightly, just because I have to like hold it down to flip the switch, I bought a little plug-in thing that my camera plugs into this thing plugs into outlet, and it has a toggle on and off switch. So instead of actually turning my power button on and off for the camera, I just hit this button. But sometimes the computer doesn't trigger that it's on. Anyway, I went around to look at it in the back to see if it was on, and I walked straight into another arm mount on my desk, like a metal one, like on my forehead.
Oh gosh.
And they kind of hurt. Let's see. Sony said monthly makes sense. Incentivizes join. Never gets too high. Now it makes it even harder for that green badge instead of the pink. All right. So what is green versus pink too? So VIP is the pink one, I assume, is what you're saying. Anyway, still, it's funny. Like mod versus VIP. Okay, that's actually, I was guessing that. I just didn't know for sure. Cool.
Deal. Nope.
I shared. I just reshared my screen. I thought you had pulled yours up and then it was ready to share. And then I was like, wait, how do you have the same code? There's no attendees. And
I've been coding along while you've been going, quickly typing to confuse you. Hold on, I'm getting it all ready and ready to go here.
Makes it even harder.
There we go.
For that green badge instead of, yeah, Sony, up to you on mod versus VIP. My head actually kind of hurts. It's super annoying.
It's horrible. Where am I going? I'm going to window entire screen. That's what I want.
It's still cool. I wonder, the numbers on Twitch are so high for people that are watching.
You know, we've been streaming on Shashi's project, and Twitter's view count has been insane compared to
it's
YouTube.
Super high. Yeah.
Like,
but the interaction is tiny from, or at least from what I've seen. Like almost, I literally get like maybe 1 or 2 comments a stream from Twitter.
Yep. All right, so this is what I have so far. I was just getting ready to, I'll show you the context that I've been putting together, but kind of very similar. I did update our cover image to match the styling that he gave us. The tricky part is going to be when you go to move this. And again, I haven't done any mobile styles yet. All right.
I haven't done the same exact thing on mine.
You know, but you know, with that custom background on the for the drag and drop, I need to dynamically resize that, or else it just kind of overflows.
Are you saying that default image is that whole thing with the text on it?
No. Just the box, just the border. Because I couldn't figure out how to recreate that border in CSS because it was just very tiny dashes, and you couldn't change the length of the dash, but only the width of the border, but not the length of everything in between.
So you're saying that is an image? The
dots. So everything beneath it, like, all right, this is an imported SVG. Everything else is fine. I'll show you. But this is a background image and the component, the dots, the border.
Okay.
But I didn't know.
That is text sitting on top of an image.
That's everything else.
Okay.
That's text sitting on top of the image, and it's a transparent image. And then I just took this from the Figma file and imported that in. Cool. Also, side note, Amy Dutton has a phenomenal create sprite script kind of tutorial that I went through where you could load in an SVG, run it, and it creates a sprite. That I plan on adding that as a feature because it's pretty, that's cheating, sir.
Yeah. I assume he's talking about using the image as.
I know it's cheating. I couldn't figure it out. I just wanted to make it look pretty in the moment. It's on my to-do list.
There was something else. I had one of my designs from, we talk about our designs and our designer, Benaya, who is awesome. There was one in here where he had something I was supposed to copy, which had dashes in it. And I don't remember. Oh, it's in the step progress bar thing.
Yeah.
The bottom, if all steps that aren't completed, so you have a different state for like one that's completed, one that you're currently on, and ones that you haven't gone to. The ones that you haven't gone to is actually a dash thing, and I couldn't figure out how to do it. So in mine, it just is a smaller dash.
I'll show you what I mean. But yeah, no, that makes perfect sense. And I know it's cheating.
I mean,
but
so I've learned this in woodworking, especially, and this is very true in web development too. Woodworking is all about doing some shit that works and then covering it up with nicer things. Like if you look behind anything that's nice, anything behind it is just what works. And it's kind of like that in code. Like as long as there's no huge performance thing, it's not, as long as it works, whatever you kind of did behind the scenes within reason doesn't really matter very much.
Yep. Absolutely.
Let Leon, we have a first comment on Twitter, by the way.
Oh, sweet. Oh, where?
Twitter from
Leon.
What's going on? Many ways to skin a cat. That's the
right.
story of this whole thing. Also, Joseph, I did get your message. I have not read it yet. I'm getting worse at messages and text messages and responding to things because I get more and more things, and I don't read something until I'm ready to respond. So I'm not saying I'm going to be able to respond to you immediately, but I do have it in my backlog to look at. I know it sounds ridiculous, but like I get overwhelmed by messages everywhere. So I do have it. I will respond. It may not be immediately though.
All right,
Chris, continue.
Yeah, so I'll walk through this now. Again, there's no form validations. I haven't put any default stuff on because this is just still a button. But I wanted to at least get this part working where when we're on step 1, this back option is set to disabled if the step is number 1.
Yep.
And then, we hit continue, and then I don't have another continue, but you can go on. I can go back, and then we're back to step 1. The categories, we need to fix this somehow. I have it on the default as ebook up here, but down here it's ebook. So just something in our categories
what
that
is
we
that?
Need to.
What do you mean? Is that different?
It's pulling from the I don't think it's an enum, but it's pulling from the type file that we have.
It is an enum right now, I think.
I'll have to go back and look, but in his thing he has e-book, and here it's just ebook. I don't care either way, but I just
I think we control that. If we think it makes more sense as e-book, that's fine. But yeah, that's how I've been. However we spell it is fine. We just need to be consistent.
Yep. So if I go over here to the code, we have the beginning portion. I kind of left this from what you had before, but because I want to look into the metadata. I know why. I think it's a different way. I think we have to do the generate metadata function in order for that to work.
Did I leave that comment before?
Yeah, that's from the original code.
That's funny. Right. It's been so long since I wrote that original code that I don't even remember.
Yeah, I was going to go ahead and just update this with the generate metadata function that Next.js has, because you can do that on the server component. It works great.
Yeah.
But yeah, JB, so we have.
JB said something about controlling sizing and roundness for the upload area. Tell me what about that, JB?
What CSS property is that? That's my question.
Yeah. Or is there one?
There might be one. We might have to do a custom class for it.
I just had to do some inline styles for something that's not covered in Tailwind.
Yeah.
So you have to do that every once in a while. But
so yeah, this is the page that's calling it for right now. And then we have this is the original form. So this is the form. Right now I just have this hard coded in just as an array of objects, step 1 in the title. The step navigation. So we'll go to, this is where I'm tracking the state of the current step, and then I'm passing that into the step navigation.
Yep. So similar to what I was saying, where you'll need to track.
Yep.
You need to track which step you're on somewhere top level, and then be able to pass that down.
Yep. So in forms, I have where am I pulling that from? Step navigation is coming from components forms. That's where it is. Components forms. And
JB said the border image CSS property. So maybe you can take an image and apply it just to the border. I've never done that. I had no idea that was the thing.
Maybe we'll play with that here in a second. So so this is the step navigation. It's just we have our steps is just an array of ID, titles, and strings, right? Current step is the number that we're on, and then of course set current step.
What's the dispatch?
So that that's the type that you can use. That's what's happening. Like that's the type that I've been assigning things.
Is that the type for a setter in useState?
Yeah.
Huh.
I could be wrong, but that because you're doing a set state action.
Yeah, that just seems complicated. I've never typed a setter from useState.
Yeah, I've seen this a few times on a few other projects that I have.
Yeah.
So it's how I've just been assigning the type to a. I
use
know,
state.
I know some other groups just do a or some other places like in my context. This is just a voided function. So I've seen that too.
I think that's probably what I've been doing. Leon has a question that I immediately thought of. And
that's what I was thinking. Use reducer as well.
Yeah, because use like reducers do like actions, and the verbiage just feels more use reducer.
It feels use reducer. I wonder if just for fun, hold on.
Use state.
I wonder if I could just go
type.
There we go. We could just do that. Oh, interesting.
Dispatch set action state. I found something that does what you're doing, which is totally fine.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, I'll look more into it. I wish I could explain it. I'll be 1000% honest. GitHub Copilot put that in there, and I'm like, cool, it works great.
Yeah.
So
I've been letting Copilot write a lot of my code.
You know what also is really helpful for this type of stuff? This is where really AI has been awesome for me, because I'm like, all right, I don't really understand what this TypeScript error is, and I throw it in and I learn from it, and then I know how to look at it next time I go through.
Yeah.
So yeah, then we're looking at the steps, all of that here. We have our button. So this is our go back button. I'm using
and all of this is just in memory, right? So you're on one page, one route, swapping out content based on
This is all in one page for right now. The goal, though, what I started to do, because then I started watching your stream, because you're doing something very similar on your other projects. I was like, okay, I need to take a look at this. But that's where I was started to implement the context. I'll show you that in a minute. But yeah, so this is our going back button. And really all I'm doing is I'm saying if set current step to the current step -1, it's disabled if the current step equals 1. So basically you can't go anywhere past 1, because that's the start, chevron left, and then of course the word back. So that's how the button works.
One thing I think I mentioned this to you before. That should work. One of the things that I do in my check is check to see if the current step is less than 2. That way, if you got down to 0 somehow, which you shouldn't in theory, but if you got down to somehow below 1, you wouldn't want to be able to press it again and go further down.
So that
again, it shouldn't happen, but
it's
usually do. It just makes me feel more comfortable. I don't know if I think you get one extra bracket. I don't know if other people have thoughts on that.
That's interesting. I kind of like that though, because if it's less than 2, then regardless of accidentally, it kind of you're testing is it less than 0, or are we at 1? Are we at 0, 1, or anything less than the minimal value? So that makes sense.
Yep.
All right. So then we go down into here, and then we loop through the step. All right. So we have the step ID, and then we have the step title. So this is going back to where did it go? Let me throw that in here. So this is basically looping through this, saying, all right, give us the number and give us the title, which ultimately is printing out this. So it's looping through and providing that information right there. So we have, the key. This is just the flex box for it. I'm using the
tail and merge,
the tail and merge function
from Shad CN or whatever.
Yeah, and then I go, all right, the current step. If the current step is equal to the step ID, then we're going to give it its coloring. Otherwise, it just has a normal border. So we remove the border on the active one and bold it. Everything else stays the same. And then of course, this is just us saying, hey, if the step matches the current step, then we're making it bold, and we're making the text fully white rather than 75%, reduced. And that's it.
I don't know if I've used the opacity like that with the slash. That's nice.
Yeah, it's just a quick little feature, rather than having to find a gray color that works. I don't know. I like it every now and then just to play with it. The other thing you could do is you could do font light or extra light. So that's really all I got so far. I mean, it's, and then I saw your stream and I kind of stopped because I knew you were learning a ton about multi-steps.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to like back off for a minute. One of the things I did start doing, and we can go through this, is the context. So this is how I kind of handled our context. Fun part is when I learned about context a long time ago. I have a boilerplate that I put into Obsidian based on like all the things that I learned that I kind of update for latest values. So that way I can always go back and reference that.
I should do that
because one of the things, because context, I mean, there's so, especially in TypeScript, you want to make sure that you're getting everything, the correct way. For example, how we're setting new deals, new deal at this point, right? And I could even make this go even further. I know any's bad, and I don't mean to, but so in we have
theory, we'll be able to extract that type from.
That's what I'm going to do. I just was being lazy. I just wanted to get MVP done.
Yeah. Oh, there's still other things to fix
but yeah, so basically what I did is I created our new deal, right? So it has our product name, category, the URL for the product summary, image, date range. This part I got to figure out. I just wanted to throw this in there for now since I'm not on that step yet. Coupon code, percentage.
What do we have in, what's the database storing? Like if you look at, do you have the Prisma schema?
Yes.
I think it's a start date and an end date.
And I think that's what we're going to pull into there. Where is Prisma? Here we go. We have, so we're pulling start date. That's what we're holding, is start date and end date right there.
And we'll probably just match that in the form.
I wonder if,
does his,
let me pull up, I'll show you what,
wonder if the design is.
That's what I'm pulling up right now.
It's just one thing.
Sorry for the flashbang, everyone. Come on. There we go. Where are you? I think it is right at step 2. So he has it as valid date range. So I wonder if we want to split this up and have start date and end date here. Unless we're going to pull up a calendar where they can select the date range.
Yeah. I would love someone else to do that. I think you can actually look at the code that was there.
That's what I was going to do. That's why I saved the original form. Because I think you have a date picker. So that's why I was going to tackle this. I mean, if we can have a date range and then have it listed in here as like text, but then in the data behind the scenes, it's storing
2 different ones.
I'll tackle that for you, man. I'm figuring that out.
And there was, I think I may have used ShadCN for the date picker. I can't remember, but I think I had start and end.
You did. You are using ShadCN for the date picker, and I did add in, just so you're aware, on these little on the inputs. I am working on a components, forms, add a deal. All right, so our input is actually built on a ShadCN input. And I'm using his labels because all of that stuff has built in, a bunch of items built in. So what I do here is our props are, I want to pass in the label. Is it required? Right. So when we're doing validation, we can make it a required object or not. By default, I think required is true, and then we can make it not required. And then here's the fun part that I did. I tried to figure out, okay, a lot of the times we name it, usually like camel case or something like that. So I created a camel case function to convert it to camel case.
If we name it.
So if you're passing, let's say the label is product name.
Oh.
So it takes product name, which has a space in it.
Which is the label, and then it camel cases it to reference the name property or the ID property of.
Kind of automates it. Where's my function that I created? This was a fun little guy I put together. Utils. Is it under lib? Yeah, here it is.
Mm.
So this is what I did. Basically, let camel case it. We're going to replace. So we're going to get rid of all of the spaces, right? Mm-hmm. And then if there is a space, we're going to get that word to lowercase, the second one to uppercase, and then we bring it back together.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's like, and then I just put this so we can use it wherever we wanted. But, you know, I figured it'd be a nice function to throw in there to make it consistent. That way we know everything is going to be camel case. If it's one word, it's all lowercase. If it's multiple, it'll, you know.
Yeah. We may have a scenario in the future where for some reason, the label is different than the name. So we may want the ability to pass it in as well. So maybe the default is like take the camel case version of the label to do the HTML4 property, but then also accept a 4 property.
Yep.
But until we need that, I wouldn't worry about it. So
yeah, but so that just gives you an idea of what's going on behind the scenes for the input. Same thing for the text label. I'm using that. What's interesting is I didn't implement it, but if you wanted to, ShadCN Forms is built on top of React Hook Form, which is interesting. Okay. I didn't implement it though, because I'm like, I don't want to do that quite yet. So anyway, let me go back to the context. There we go. Come on, close out. There we go. I just wanted this to stay long, so I added a prettier ignore. I don't know. I kept on pushing this to the bottom, and it made it format it weird, so I didn't like it. So you get into the context provider, so then I'm going, all right, we're setting everything to, you know, default. Shivam and chat says from YouTube, what says, would you give Redux a try? I think Redux, I haven't used it. From my understanding, I think Redux is used for much larger scale applications. Since this is really, in this project, the only state that we are really holding on to is when we're adding a deal and when we're filtering out certain deals. I think that's it. So I don't think we would need that for this project.
Yeah.
I don't know if have you used Redux?
Barely, but it's been a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's also lots of other state management ones that people like, which is great. I've never experienced this, but at some point, Context API has performance implications, I think, if you get to really big state. So I think that would be the key, like, indicator of time for something else, but not something we're likely to experience right now. So
there we go. I'm just gonna, I needed to add this in there, so I'm just adding it in now. And then we go down here, and of course, the context provider with our new deal. And then what I do is I add the actual use context provider within side of the context, which is pretty cool. That way it's all in one place. So then I create the context instead of here. And then this is what I import into our component. It's going to be use add deal context.
Yeah.
Correct. And then I just add in, of course, my throw error. If it's not, hey, if context equals null, then you need to, whatever you're working in, we need to, wrap
it. Yep.
Yeah. So that's kind of all that I got through. And then my next step was to go up into here
and how are you showing and hiding the content based on the step right now?
I'm basically doing it. Oh, here's how I was planning on doing it without going to different routes. Where's the deal form? No, that's not what I wanted to do. Forms, add a deal. There we go. Nope, it's in the page. Sorry. Add a deal. Here we go. So what I was going to do is do it like this. I was going to do, if current step equals 1, show that portion of the form. And then I was going to make this a step 1 component, a step 2 component. So rather than doing separate routes, I was just going to keep it on one page. And then I started going in here, and I was going to, over here on the left, I was going to move it out of one component and do it into, instead of step 1, I was going to do product info. It doesn't matter. And then kind of my backlog of stuff that I need to do for this. Actually, let me, because I know. Have you ever used Things?
I assume that's the name of this product.
Yeah, it's called Things. Things 3.
No, I haven't.
Deals for devs. So I just want to go. I need to add context to, or add context around the layout for add a deal route. I need to add a use local storage hook or something like that. For data, if page is refreshed. I need to add the separate routes. I'm just kind of making a note, kind of add separate routes for each step. And we're not, I shouldn't really have to use any Zod schemas, right? Except for maybe the very end when we're checking the data before it's submitted and the action. No?
Well, if there's anything you can't handle with built-in HTML validation, and that's where things get more, I think for the most part, just built-in validation does it, right? Because you just want to prevent, like if you have each step be its own form, then you can have the submit button automatically not work when built-in validation fails.
Yeah, that's valid.
And that's handy.
Anything not handled by built-in HTML validation. And then I know one of the things that we talked about was the image upload to Xata with promise and get response URL for image and add to database before submitting entire deal to the database. That makes sense to me, I know, but that's kind of what we talked about.
The images, that's the one thing that gets tricky. It's the one thing that takes additional work.
But I was thinking about doing that in the action portion, or the other option is, where's the page? Where's the deal form? Right here. Or what I could do is down here.
So the image.
So here we go. We have the drag and drop image component here. So what we could do is on submit, I could just run a function up here that calls it. What I don't want to do is have it prematurely go to Xata, save it, and return it until the very end once we know we have a valid form. Because then you have rogue data that's being stored. If someone were to upload the image and go, never mind, I don't want to do this anymore. Yeah. Well, then we have a rogue image uploaded to Xata.
Yeah, I've debated about that in the past. A friend of mine, Chris, that built VideoTap, you upload videos, and he does it where you drag a video on and it gets uploaded.
Right away.
It could go. I would debate about that too. The thing I wouldn't want to happen is somehow the image upload fails at the very end. So like if you drag the image on and it shows everything's fine, you go all the way to the last step, and then it's like, oh, you don't have an image, then I feel like that gets tricky. So it may be a reasonable thing to just upload it as they drag it on.
Well, the other thing we could do then, I'm just thinking of what to do after that. I mean, we could do, maybe like a once a month check or something using a cron job that checks for any images, and are they being referenced from any
Yeah,
deals?
the thing that's tough about that, unfortunately, is I don't think Xata has a way to directly query all of your file storage.
Oh.
And then compare. That may not be true. Like the only way I'm accessing the image now is through the record, the column, the like attachment column inside of a table. So short answer is I'm not exactly sure. I think whatever we do now that works is fine. And then we can get better at it.
Maybe then what I'll do is I'm just going to add a note for myself in things is back over here. Whoop. Oh, that is a personal one. Deals with that. I'm like, transfer $2,000. Like, oh, okay. Yeah, we're paying off some debt with
nice.
Image upload. All right. So here's what I think this should be: image upload to Xata. Sorry, I don't know why I say it. Is it Xata or Xata? Xata, right?
I mean, it's the same with data
during
and data, whatever you
step 1,
say.
and don't allow to pass to step 2 until image uploads with a return okay. What if we added a upload status with like the same color, like that teal color bar going across? So we drag and drop it, and then it triggers. Am I getting out of control?
No, that makes sense. I've done that as well. You don't have a great way to actually determine, like they don't respond back to say like 10% uploaded, 20%. So you don't actually have access to that, but you could just fake it. What I've done is just do like go 0 to 80 as a transition and then have it wait there until, and a lot of sites do that until it finishes, and then just go to 100.
All right, then maybe we can use the toast as well to show error.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Xanthor is saying just upload it when you get it. So when it comes in, just go ahead and upload it and then save the URL to your state.
Okay, we'll just do that then. I think that'll be the easiest route, and then we can figure out.
We're still a long way away from like needing to do any cleanup anyway, so it's something to think about, but we may get there. And when we
have a couple deals that we're getting ready to add in if we get this done in time. So, but that's kind of where I'm at, man. So, I mean, I think I have a good approach for what's left to do. Don't think I'm going to add the TAN-stack query, not because it's bad, but because I just don't think we really need it for this. I don't have multiple users or people to add to this and sort through.
Yeah, you're not making multiple queries, so you don't have any need for
query caching.
Can you show me the design again?
Yeah. Let's pull up the Figma file. What do you want to see? You want to go to the
scroll through those pages. Yeah, so just
let me get it up here on the screen. Hold
on. So the only thing there that's tricky is the image.
That's it. And so you see the little dotted line. This is what I was talking about. I will definitely try with the background image. Maybe I'll see if I can. Yeah, I'm gonna have to play around with the background border image.
Also, for now, I would probably keep it even simpler and just do the built-in dashed line, and it won't look perfect, but it'll be close.
Sorry, I do this because I have ADD, and if I don't add in use default line for image drop border. Okay, cool.
So then on the second one, coupon deals. The
date range is the only tricky thing here.
Yeah.
And I assume percentage, because we'll convert the percentage to a, all we're going to do is take that and convert it to text, really, because that goes on the badge.
So in his UI there, he has a drop down.
He has a drop down here, correct?
I wonder if we want a drop down versus.
I was going to ask you about that. I just didn't get to that step yet.
Let's just assume that's a number input.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Number input for
Because not very likely, but if you do increments of 5, like someone may want
what if it's
a or whatever
99.3%? You know, I don't know. It could be a weird thing like that. Coupon code, if there is any.
Yep.
And then we get into, this is basic, full name and email address. We're making this mandatory now. That way we can contact the
email
person.
Validation. Yeah. All that's just built-in validation. And the last one is review.
Yeah. So this is where we're going to sorry.
Good thing. Just a preview of what this looks like.
It's just a preview of the deal. It has a little mini badge in there. It's kind of like a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
And then
we have the back button to go back. So that final submit is going to take all that information and
correct.
Say, do you have any? The only thing that I would like to have, and this is why I ended up going a more complicated route of mine, is the ability for people to hit a forward and back button through those steps.
So here's what I was thinking about. So back and forward, or what if we made, once they go past that, these are clickable links as a whole. They could just click on
this, it. So that's those clickable, that actually that makes a lot of sense. So I think we should definitely do that. I think the question now is whether or not we do full separate routes or if we just use hashtags. I feel like the routes are probably cleaner because hashtags mean on each one of those, you're like parsing the hash and trying to figure out where you are, blah, blah, blah.
I agree.
So then what you would do is in the /create or /new or whatever, you would have a layout.
Yep.
And then in that layout, you would wrap everything underneath in that context.
Yep.
And then you'd have a route for step 1, step 2, step 3. I would actually name those routes as product info, coupon details, contact info.
Yeah, I already started that.
Okay. Mine is step 1, step 2, and I don't love that.
Yeah, that's where here I already did the under add. That's what this is turning out to be right here. Is that's the product info. So that's step 1.
Cool. Okay.
Right.
So then you have a page route inside of each of those. You have your parent
layout
wrapper, and then what you want to do is consume that root context data inside of each one of those forms.
Yep.
And then there's a lot of code you can probably just copy over from what I have when we get to some of those intimate details of like, when do we save local storage? How do we get defaults if local sources work, etc. And then that's code that like I can just give you. So I think without getting that to that level of detail, there's plenty to do of like create the separate routes, create the individual forms, have built-in validation for all of them. I think the only thing that needs additional validation is the image. Everything else is built-in validation. Your buttons would then just be router.push to go to the next page. Like your next button or whatever.
Yep.
And your back would be same thing or just the opposite, like a
it would be router. So it would do it would be a router.push. It would just take it to whatever the previous.
Yeah, you can do a pop like to actually tap into the browser routing, but I don't think we want to do that.
I don't want to do that just in case they go somewhere else and then all of a sudden they're back and then it takes them to
so I would have it go through that and then have each of those obviously their own link and they link to /product info /coupon details, etc. And then inside of the root of new, you can have a page that just redirects to new /product -info.
Exactly. Yeah, it'll just take them right there. And then obviously a validation at each point, like you had to where if step 1 stuff is not valid, route back to step 1. If you're at step 3 and step 2, route back to step 2. So by the time they get to step 4,
that's good.
I got a lot of stuff to do, but I think it's a little bit clearer and I can go ahead and add that all in, and then I'll go. If you want to, you don't have to do it here, but if you want to just drop, did you create a hook for local storage? Because that's what I was going to do is create a use local storage hook.
No, I didn't. I'm only calling local storage in like 2 places, so I don't think I need it. It's not like I'm sharing it. It's just a function I call inside of the context.
All right,
it's 2 functions: read and write.
If you want to pull down the, I don't think I made any changes really. So Or I could just go in and I can go to your GitHub and just pull it.
Yeah, I was just thinking, this is not actually a repo yet.
Oh no.
So that's one thing I should do.
But I mean, the design's great. Your designer did a phenomenal job. It's really easy to follow to pull all this together.
Yeah.
So and dude, the team is doing, man, it's how many contributors we have is
Yeah.
And we got Chrissy helping out. She's killing it from the maintainer stuff when, because I'm still busy at my other job.
Yep.
Yeah, it's been really cool.
Yeah, agreed. I've been telling a lot of people about it.
It's just fun to see everyone getting excited and hyped about it. Subscriber prep. Let's I kind of want to look at this real quick. So I know Chrissy is currently working this page right here. She's working the landing page.
Yeah.
I'm working this. Then subscriber preferences, that is already done. So we finished this one. And then I think the only thing remaining is the view all deals, which we could probably pull. Oh, that's one question I did have in this one. Did you have a preference on when they go to view all deals? Did you want never miss a deal in the middle, or do you want that at the end? He gave you two options.
I never thought about that. I think in the middle is cool. I think if we break it up.
That's what I was thinking. Like every, if you put, after 6, this gets thrown in there.
Yeah. Okay. So you have top 6, and then after that, yeah.
Cool. We'll do that. So that's that page. And then I know someone's wanting, I think Ryan wanted to work on the
search.
But cool. I think for MVP to get this out there, the search right now works. It's not going to pull it up in the format that you want. I think if we just got this page complete, other pieces, we ship it. And then once we actually have data in there, then it'll be really easier for Ryan or someone else to go in to update this, because then all of the data will be there for them to work it. We'll have all of the database stuff figured out if we need to add in anything else, which you shouldn't. Hey, one question too. Right now we have, and we talked about this a while back, but I don't think we ever decided what we're going to do about it. So we have our categories right here, right? So this is where we're pulling it from, like we talked about before. And did we want to continue to keep this as an enum, or did we want to create a database, just table of categories, and just ping that? Because if
I decided against that. Someone took on that story, and then I backed away from it. The reason was I don't know how to get like a TypeScript type from things that are saved in the database. So for now, I like the IntelliSense of having category dot to see. And I may change my mind on that again. But for now, I backed away from that to just do the enum and code.
Great. So the next question is, do you want ebook or ebook?
I'll just leave it without the dash, just because that's what's already in there. So cool. Not that it doesn't matter a whole lot. Yeah, I put a link in the chat to the Potluck Pal stuff. I just checked in the code, so it's like half broken. But there's all the things that we just talked about. I sent it to you and DM too.
Cool.
That you can go and reference. I'm gonna run, and Nanny is about to leave, so I'm gonna go get Jamie and get ready for the rest of the day. But good stuff. Let me know if you need anything next. Chat, I'm not gonna raid or anything. I'm just gonna drop out real quick. So thanks for all hanging out.
Thanks everyone.
Code. Give them suggestions, all the things. But yeah.
Thank you, James.
Thanks, Chris. Have a good weekend, man.
All right, you too. We'll talk to you next week. Bye.
Bye.